So in my last video, I talked about feeling it real, what that means in context to conscious manifestation, and the importance of it when it comes to the outpicturing of what we desire. In that video, I talked about invoking the tones of reality, or making your imaginal act feel as real to you, as lifelike, if you will, as we possibly can. And I definitely recommend checking out that video if you have not seen it yet. I'll leave the link for that guy in the description box below. But I noticed there were a few comments on that video from people who felt very discouraged because to them, they had a very difficult time with visualization. They had a very difficult time with bringing in those imaginal senses, those tones of reality. Which inspired me to make this video because in truth, I can completely understand and relate to this frustration and this sentiment. I've mentioned it before on previous videos, but I have not always been somebody who had the ability to visualize in vivid detail. In fact, for the longest time, I struggled when it came to imagining things in my mind's eye. Whenever I would try to imagine something, I was usually always seeing black. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about what I did specifically to help exercise this imagination muscle, so to speak, and the steps that I took to go from somebody who was not able to visualize whatsoever to somebody who can now see things and pictures, moving pictures in my mind's eye as visceral and vivid as the room I am sitting in right now. So if you have always struggled with visualization and bringing in those tones of reality, if you're somebody who suffers from aphantasia or wants some ways in which you can practice making things feel more lifelike and real for you, then definitely stick around to the end of the video because this one is especially for you. By the way, hi, I'm Missy Renee, and on this channel we talk all things manifestation and the law of assumption, so if that's a topic that you want to learn more about, then definitely be sure to subscribe to my channel, hit that bell icon for notifications, and if you enjoy these videos, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. If you're interested in any of my resources, such as my coaching programs, my workshops, and masterclasses, I got links to all of that down in the description box below, so don't forget to check it out. So before we dive in, I just need to give a disclaimer and make something very abundantly clear to every one of you watching. It is really important to note that visualization is not a requirement in order to manifest. It is not something that you need to do in order to get the result that you want. There are a plethora of ways that we can imagine and put ourselves in the state of the wish fulfilled mentally. Visualization is only one aspect. Although I would argue to say that what I'm going to be describing in this video goes a bit beyond just visualizing. The point is to say that none of the techniques that I'm going to describe in this video are ones that you have to master. The last thing that we need is feeling pressure to do something right and feeling very anxious if we're finding ourselves having difficulty with this. At first, like anything else, if you are not somebody who visualizes very clearly or feels things very lifelike and real, it is going to be practice, just like learning any new skill. And it's really important to stress this point because far too often I am seeing people trying to force themselves, trying to strain themselves and practically burst a blood vessel to get themselves to visualize properly. The techniques in and of themselves, no matter what it is never the thing itself that manifests. The technique, whatever it is only a tool. It is only something that aids us in feeling the realness of what we are imagining. It is to aid us in leaving that subconscious impression, which then must become expressed in your 3D. That being said, for myself personally, the reason that I stress the importance of the imaginal acts and feeling so much and bringing tones of reality into it is because for me, and I can only speak to my experience, but for me, this has been the most effective and fastest way that I've gone from imagining to seeing it outpictured. The more that something feels real for us, the more natural it feels, the faster we will experience it with our physical senses as well. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive on in because there's quite a bit to cover. I've broken it down to 3 things specifically that I did that really helped me to exercise and strengthen my imagination muscle, my ability to see and experience things more clearly in my mind's eye. The first thing, and one that I speak of often, was introducing a meditation practice. Specifically, in this case, I started to use a focused attention type of meditation. This is to give us a better ability to maintain our focus and attention and not let our mind wander all over the place when we are starting to get into that relaxed and drowsy state. And there are a plethora of reasons as to why we should introduce a meditation practice into our daily routine outside of learning to manifest. But in this case, it was one of the most important things that helped me with overall maintenance of maintaining that state and keeping my attention on what I wanted to experience and what I wanted to embody. Because for most of us, sadly, we live in a day and age where our attention span is like that of a goldfish. We are constantly distracted. We are constantly bouncing around from thing to thing to thing several times a day, an hour, or even by minute. So holding our concentration and holding our attention on our scene or what we want to imagine can feel incredibly difficult at first. To aid with this, bringing a meditation practice into your day, specifically one around focus or attention, is going to be game-changing. Even if it's only 5 minutes. It does not mean that we have to sit in silence for an hour, even 5 minutes a day. You're going to notice your ability to relax, to ease into it, and to maintain your direction on what you want to imagine infinitely easier and more effortless for you. This is also going to assist your daily observation. This is going to help you with your ability to catch your thoughts or become more increasingly aware with what you are entertaining and what you are imagining naturally in your day-to-day. Again, this is one I bring up all the time because it is often overlooked, because if we are not used to meditation, this one can feel especially challenging, but it is no less important than anything else. In fact, it may be one of the most important aspects to all of this. So the second tip or technique is something that I call sensory exercises. And it is very much just like the name describes. This is where we take an object, it could be any object, and we are capturing as many details as we can get with our physical senses, and then closing our eyes and aiming to replicate with our imaginal senses as much detail as we produce with our physical ones. And I recommend using an object that has more distinction, so a distinct feel or smell or taste. Some common examples could be a baseball, a cup of coffee, a lemon. But to give an example, let's use a cup of coffee. What you're going to do is grab a cup of coffee, a physical cup, put it in front of you or hold it and really take in as much distinction as you can. First, notice how it looks or feels. Does it have a distinct feel for it? What kind of cup is it? Is it a ceramic mug or a plastic or paper to-go cup? Is there an image on the cup? What color is it? Take in as much of the sight and feel of the physical object as possible. Then you're going to take the coffee and you're going to lift it towards you and inhale and really savor the aroma for a moment. Does it have a lighter smell or does it seem darker and more bold? Do you notice any notes, such as a nuttiness or earthiness, caramelized, or is it a lighter, fruity, maybe even floral note? Really take a moment to just savor this and get as distinct and detailed as you can with what your senses are telling you. Then you're going to go ahead and take a sip of the coffee, and then you're going to take note of everything that you are grabbing from the taste of it, noting the temperature of it. Are you able to taste those notes that you smell? The nuttiness, earthiness, fruity or floral. If it's lighter, if it's bolder, perhaps you added cream and sugar, so there's more of a sweetness to it. Now, after taking all of this in with your physical senses, you're going to go ahead and you're going to put the coffee cup down, and then you're going to close your eyes and you're going to replicate the action that you just took with as many details with your imaginal senses as possible. You're going to replicate that to the best of your ability. And as I mentioned, you can practice this with literally any object. And I recommend practicing this with as many different kinds of objects as you are able to. Even if you are not able to replicate, start with just describing it in your mind. If at first you are unable to capture the senses, then just describe it in your mind at first. Believe me when I say that with practice, you're going to find it becoming more and more distinct, lifelike, and vivid for you. The third tip or technique is probably the one that helped me the most out of anything else. And it's one that I believe I may have spoke on in a much earlier video, but it has certainly been a while, so it is best to bring this up again. But this exercise is one that is referred to as image streaming. And image streaming is in a way similar to the sensory exercises, but in this case, this is where you're going to be describing in great detail the scene that you are trying to imagine. And this could be literally any scene. It does not have to be something that you are physically holding or something that is physically in your surroundings. So to use an example for this one, instead of saying something such as, I'm on a beach, with image streaming, you would be going into much more detail, such as this example. I take my first steps onto the beach and glance around, taking in my surroundings. The bright blue sky stretches endlessly above, dotted with a few clouds lazily drifting by. The turquoise water is glittering and calm, and the horizon where the ocean meets the sky seems infinite, pulling me forward. The sound of waves crashing along the shore is ever present, a rhythmic, calming sound. Each wave builds up before breaking along the shoreline, and then retreats with a soft whoosh, only to be replaced by the next in line. There's a gentle breeze in the air, cool enough to offer relief from the heat of the sun, but warm enough to carry the faint scent of salt water and sunscreen. Heading toward the water, I can feel the tiny grains shift between my toes as my feet sink slightly into the warm sand with each step. I can hear the seagulls calling above, soaring through the blue sky. I glance to my left as two children run past, their giggles mixing with the soothing sounds of the waves. The bright sun casts a golden glow over everything, and the beach stretches out for what seems like forever, inviting and endless. Nearing the shoreline, the first wave reaches my ankles, sending a refreshing shock up my spine, and I can't help but smile. I take a few more steps, and the water rises to my knees, chasing away any lingering heat from the sun. I take a breath, brace myself, and dive into the next wave. The ocean enveloped me in an instant. From that example, you may have had a much clearer image come to your mind versus just saying, I'm at a beach. But with image streaming, we are essentially closing our eyes and saying as many details about our scene as possible. When image streaming, make sure that you are always talking in the present tense, as though you are having the experience and picking up on all the details in this moment. And you want to add as many details as you possibly can. Note what you are picking up with your five senses, what you are hearing, what you are smelling, tasting, touching, seeing, any sensations that you note in your body, or even any emotions that may be coming up. But most importantly, make sure that you are emphasizing your imaginal senses. Lastly, you want to describe everything in as much detail as quickly as possible. Let it flow from you naturally. Try not to give yourself long breaks and pauses or get too caught up in overthinking it. With practice, you are just going to be able to start letting it flow. But you want to keep a continuous pace as though it is literally a stream of consciousness. Because in truth, that's what it is. If at first it feels difficult to do this with imaginal scenes, you can also do it with physical objects around your house and in your surroundings. Just like with the sensory exercises, you can take objects around you and just describe them in as great of detail out loud or in your mind as possible. But I recommend doing this at least once a day for at minimum 5 minutes. But as you practice and you begin to flow better, you're going to find yourself being able to do this for even 10 or 20 minutes without stopping, or shifting seamlessly within your imaginal scene. This is an incredibly powerful tool when it comes to really exercising the senses in our imagination and getting ourselves as familiar as possible with invoking those tones of reality. If you are able to do this for 7 consecutive days, you will notice an improvement in your ability to capture things with your imaginal senses. And lastly, I'm going to give a bonus tip number 4, and that is if you are still having difficulty with bringing any of the senses in imagination, if you're unable to see anything, if you're unable to hear anything, smell anything, any of it, if it feels like it is just pure darkness, then just allow yourself to narrate your scene, but really emphasize in your mind that this is really happening for you. One thing that I did was I just allowed myself to narrate my scene in my own head and told myself over and over in imagination that this is really happening. The more emphasis that I put on what I was imagining as real, the more it started to actually feel real. And the more that I started to notice my body responding to it and invoking a reaction, invoking emotions naturally. And this is the aim here. We want to invoke those feelings. We want to invoke the senses. We want to have the same kind of reaction that we would be having as though we are experiencing it right now in the 3D. Oftentimes, I describe our imagination is very much akin to a muscle, a physical muscle. Think back to when we were children and how effortless it was to imagine things, how easy it was for us to get completely lost in our own world, just immerse ourselves in something internal, something that was very much outside of our physical senses. You have not lost your ability to do the same thing. It is just a muscle that you have not used in a long time, so it has atrophied a bit. These are some ways that you can start to exercise and bring the muscle of imagination back to life. Because the whole point of the imaginal exercises and techniques is to have an imaginal experience that provides you with a sense of satisfaction. If you are imagining, whether that's visualizing, affirmations, or what have you, and it is not providing that sense of satisfaction, then we must keep practicing. If we are opening our eyes and still looking and lusting after the thing that we desire, we are not reaching that sense of real satisfaction that we want to be reaching if we are in fact living in the end, living as though it is done. The key to remember here is that the imaginal experience, if actually experienced with all the tones of reality or feeling of realness, we will notice a corresponding shift within ourselves. The same kind of shift that would occur if what we were imagining was actually happening to us, if we were experiencing it for real in the 3D. Because it is that realness, it is feeling it real that will actually leave that impression and will leave you feeling satisfied to the point where you are no longer looking and lusting and going after this thing. Because to your subconscious, it's going to feel like you just received it, like you already have it now. A lot of times I get asked the question of, how do I know if I have felt it right? And the answer may not be the most satisfying answer, but the honest answer is, if you have felt it right, you will know. There is no missing it. In fact, if we even have to ask the question, then we probably have not felt it to the degree that we want to, because we are still unconvinced that what we have imagined has actually taken place. This is why it is so important that we practice imagining for the sake of experiencing our desire as though it were really happening, versus just to try and get it to happen in the future someday. Because the more that you do this, the more that you practice having that inner experience and exercising all of the senses to the best of your ability to give it those tones of reality, to give it as lifelike of a representation as possible, the more you get descriptive with this, the more that you start to light up those centers in the brain that will fill the scene in more detail for you. The more that you do this, the more that you practice this, that is how we reach a place of satisfaction within us. And that is how you will manifest literally anything you want. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope this gave some clarity and insight. If you did enjoy the tips and exercises, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions about these exercises or feeling it real, drop them down in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Also, if you're interested in any of my other resources, I will leave links down below in the description box to my coaching programs, my workshops, my masterclasses, my blog, my podcast, my social links. I've got a ton of great resources down below, so don't forget to check that out. Also, be sure to check out the other videos on this channel. Be sure to check out my Manifestation Fundamentals playlist. Each video is a different topic, but it all talks about how to manifest the best life ever. So until we meet again, you guys, as always, please take care, be well, and never forget how powerful you truly are. Happy manifesting, guys.